The autumn wind carried dust and wheat chaff across the Carter farm, stinging Eliza May's eyes as she struggled with the broken harness. Her father lay inside, legs splinted after the wagon accident 3 days prior. The harvest wouldn't wait for injured men or grieving daughters. "Easy now, Buttercup," she murmured to the mare, though her own hands trembled with exhaustion. 22 years on this land, and she'd never seen a harvest this desperate. Without Pa working, without hired hands they couldn't afford. The wheat would rot in the fields. The sound of hooves made her look up, shading her eyes against the afternoon sun. A lone rider approached from the east, his silhouette dark against the golden fields. Eliza's hand moved instinctively to the rifle propped against the fence post. Too many drifters passed through these parts with intentions that had nothing to do with honest work. The man slowed his horse to a walk, raising one hand in greeting. As he drew closer, Eliza could make out weathered features beneath a wide-brimmed hat, trail dust coating everything from his worn boots to his leather chaps. A Colt .45 rested at his hip, the holster tied down in the manner of men who knew how to use it. "Ma'am," he said, touching his hat brim. His voice was rough as sandpaper, like he hadn't spoken in days. "Wonder if I might trouble you for some water. Been riding since dawn." Eliza kept her stance firm, though she noticed how his horse's flanks heaved with exhaustion. "There's a stream 1/2 mile south." "Yes, ma'am. Passed it already. Water's running muddy." He dismounted slowly, keeping his hands visible. "Name's Wade Callahan. Not looking for trouble, just water for my horse and maybe myself." She studied him, the way he moved with careful precision, how his eyes scanned the property without seeming to. This was a man who'd learned to read danger in every shadow. But there was something else, too, a weariness that went deeper than trail dust. "The well's by the barn," she said finally. "You can water your horse, then you'll be on your way." Grateful for it. He led his horse toward the well, and Eliza noticed the slight limp in his gait. When he worked the pump handle, she saw the efficiency of someone who'd done hard labor before. She should have gone back to her work, but something made her linger. Maybe it was the gentle way he spoke to his horse, or how he cupped water in his palm for the animal to drink first before taking any himself. "That your wheat?" He nodded toward the fields. "My father's. Needs cutting soon. Maybe another day or two before it's overripe." Eliza's jaw tightened. "I'm aware." Wade took a long drink from the ladle, then studied the fields again. "Big job for one person. I manage what needs managing." He was quiet for a moment, then said, "I could work a few days. Trade labor for a place to sleep. Your barn would do fine, and some meals. I've brought in harvest before." Eliza almost laughed. "And why would a drifter with a tied-down gun want to cut wheat?" "Man's got to eat, and sometimes—" He paused, looking at something beyond the fields. "Sometimes a man needs to remember what honest work feels like." There was truth in that statement, raw as an open wound. Eliza had seen enough men to know the difference between those running from something and those running to something. Wade Callahan looked like both. "I've seen plenty of men who talk nice enough in daylight," she said carefully. His eyes met hers directly then, and she saw they were gray as winter storm clouds. "I give you my word, Miss Carter, my hands won't touch that gun while there's women in the house, and they won't touch anything else uninvited." The wind picked up again, rattling the loose barn door. Eliza thought of her father, fevered and helpless, of her younger sister Sarah, only 16 and already exhausted from tending him, of the wheat that would be worthless in a week. "You know my name," she observed. "Saw it on the mail post coming in. Jonathan Carter." "My father, I'm Eliza May." She straightened her shoulders. 4 days' work. You sleep in the barn, take meals with the hands, which is just me and my sister now. Any trouble, any whisper of it, and you'll be looking down the barrel of that rifle before you can blink. Fair terms." He extended his hand to shake on it, then seemed to think better of it, simply nodding instead. I'll tend to my horse and start on the south field if that suits. Tools are in the barn. Dinner's at sundown. She turned to go, then looked back. Mr. Callahan, that gun stays in the barn when you come to the house. Yes, ma'am. As she walked back to the house, Eliza felt the weight of his gaze between her shoulder blades. Not threatening, just observing, like he was memorizing the way she moved through her own land. Inside, Sarah looked up from Pa's bedside. Who was that? Hired hand, few days only. Sarah's eyes widened. Eliza, we can't afford to lose the harvest either. She moved to check their father's bandages. He's working for board, nothing more. That evening, Wade appeared at the kitchen door exactly at sundown, hat in hand, hair still damp from washing at the pump. True to his word, the gun was nowhere in sight. He ate quietly but with good manners, complimenting Sarah's cornbread without overdoing it. When Pa called out in his delirium, Wade simply continued eating, giving the girls privacy to tend their father. Your father, he was in the war, Wade asked when they returned. How did you know? The way he calls out, heard it before. Eliza studied him across the table. Were you? Too young for that one, but I've seen men who were. He pushed back from the table. Thank you for the meal. I'll be starting at first light if that suits. After he left, Sarah whispered, he seems decent enough. Seeming and being are different things, Eliza replied. But she found herself watching through the window as he crossed to the barn, his silhouette merging with the gathering darkness. That night, she barely slept. Every sound made her reach for the rifle beside her bed, but when dawn broke and she looked out, Wade was already in the south field, working in the pale light, moving through the wheat like he'd been born to it. By the time she brought him water at mid-morning, he'd cut more than she could have managed in a full day. His shirt was soaked with sweat, but his pace never faltered. You weren't lying about knowing harvest work, she said, offering the water jug. He paused, leaning on the scythe. Man learns a lot of things when he's trying to forget others. She wanted to ask what he was trying to forget, but something in his expression warned her off. Instead, she said, there's cold dinner laid out when you're ready. I'll finish this section first. As she walked back, Eliza found herself thinking about the careful way he moved, the shadows in his eyes, the gun he wore like an extension of himself. Wade Callahan was running from something. That much was certain. The question was whether it would follow him here, to her father's farm, to the harvest that might save them or break them. Behind her, she could hear the steady rhythm of the scythe through wheat, keeping time with her heartbeat. 3 days into the harvest, Wade Callahan had proven himself worth 10 ordinary hands. The south field lay in neat rows of cut wheat, ready for binding. He'd fixed the broken harness without being asked, reinforced the sagging barn door, and patched the leak in the roof that had plagued them since spring. Eliza watched from the kitchen window as he worked on the fence posts, driving them deep with powerful swings of the hammer. Sarah hummed beside her, kneading bread dough. He's different from the others who've passed through, Sarah said quietly. They're all different until they're not. You're too hard on people, Eliza. Not every man is like Tom Morrison. Eliza's hands stilled on the dishes. Tom Morrison, the neighbor's son who'd courted her 2 summers back. All sweet words and promises until the night he'd cornered her in the barn. She'd fought him off with a pitchfork, but the memory still made her shoulder muscles tight. Maybe not, she conceded, but trusting too quick is how people get hurt. Sarah shaped the dough into loaves. Ma trusted Pa when he showed up at grandfather's farm, nothing but a war-worn soldier with empty pockets. Ma had more faith than sense sometimes. And look what it brought her, this land, this life, us. Before Eliza could respond, their father's voice rose from the back room, calling for water. Sarah wiped her hands quickly. I'll go. Alone in the kitchen, Eliza found her gaze drawn back to the window. Wade had stopped working, standing with one hand pressed to his lower back. Even from here, she could see the tight line of pain across his shoulders. Without thinking, she filled a jar with cool buttermilk and walked outside. He straightened when he saw her coming, that careful mask sliding back into place. "Thought you might be thirsty," she said, offering the jar. "Much obliged." He drank deeply, and she noticed the scars on his hands, old ones, white against his sun-darkened skin. "Your back's hurting." "It's nothing. It's something if it keeps you from working. We've got liniment in the house." His smile was rueful. "I've had worse than a sore back, Miss Carter, though I appreciate the concern." She should have left it there, but something made her press. "Those scars on your hands, they're not from farm work." Wade set down the empty jar carefully. "No, ma'am, they're not. Rope burns, among other things." He picked up the hammer again. "I did some work once that required handling difficult situations. Not proud of it, but a man doesn't always get to choose his path when he's hungry enough. And now I'm trying to remember what it feels like to build something instead of tear it down." The raw honesty in his voice caught her off guard. She'd expected deflection or lies, not this quiet admission. "The liniment's on the shelf by the stove," she said finally. "Help yourself after supper." That evening, Pa's fever broke. He woke clear-eyed for the first time since the accident, asking for food and news of the harvest. While Eliza helped him eat, she could hear Wade and Sarah talking in the kitchen, her sister's light laughter punctuating his low responses. "Who's that?" Pa asked, tilting his head toward the voices. "Hired hand, Wade Callahan. He's been helping with the harvest." Pa's eyes sharpened. "Callahan? I knew a Sergeant Callahan in the war. Good man, dead now, though." "This one's too young to have served in your war." "It might be kin. Ask him." But when Eliza returned to the kitchen, Wade had already gone back to the barn. Sarah was washing dishes, a small smile playing at her lips. "What were you two talking about?" "Books, if you can believe it. He's read nearly as much as Ma had. Quoted some poetry, too." Eliza frowned. A drifter who could work like a farmhand, wore a gun like a shootist, and quoted poetry. The pieces didn't fit together right. Late that night, unable to sleep, she stepped onto the porch for air. A faint glow came from the barn, lamplight seeping through the cracks, moving quietly. She approached and peered through a gap in the wall. Wade sat on a hay bale, shirt off, applying liniment to his back. In the lamplight, she could see the full extent of the scarring, not just his back, but his chest and arms, too. Some were old, white and faded. Others newer, still pink. But what caught her breath were the deliberate patterns on his back, scars from a whip, laid on with cruel precision. He must have sensed her presence because he spoke without turning. "It's not polite to spy, Miss Carter." Heat flooded her cheeks. I saw the light and wondered what kind of man you'd let onto your property." He pulled his shirt back on slowly. "Can't say I blame you." She stepped into the barn properly, chin raised. "Those scars, someone owned you?" In a manner of speaking, he stood, facing her now. "Not the way you're thinking. I wasn't born into chains. But there are other kinds of ownership. Men who think they can buy your gun, your fists, your conscience if the price is right. And the whip marks. Punishment for saying no when I should have said yes. For finding a line I wouldn't cross." His gray eyes were steady on hers. "Does it change things? Want me gone come morning?" Eliza studied him, this contradiction of a man with gentle hands and violent scars, who quoted poetry and wore a gun-like breathing. "Can you finish the harvest?" "I said I would." "Then we have a deal, but Mr. Callahan." She paused at the barn door. "Whatever you're running from, if it follows you here, it becomes my problem too, my sister's problem, my father's. If trouble comes, it won't touch your family. You have my word on that." Your word. She tested the weight of it. And what's that worth? It's all I've got left that's truly mine. Miss Carter, so I'd say it's worth everything. She nodded slowly and turned to go, then stopped. There's coffee on the stove come morning. No need to wait for invitation. The next day, he worked like a man possessed, cutting and binding wheat from dawn to dusk. When Eliza brought him water, she noticed he'd moved his bedroll to where he could see both the road and the house. His gun, she realized, was never far from reach even when he worked. Expecting company? She asked. Always am. He took the water gratefully. Habit's hard to break. Must be exhausting, living like that. Less exhausting than being dead. She was about to respond when Sarah called from the house. Eliza, someone's coming. A wagon approached on the main road, dust cloud rising behind it. Wade set down the scythe casually, but Eliza saw how his hand drifted toward where his gun belt hung on a fence post. The wagon pulled into their yard, revealing Samuel Morrison and his son Tom. Eliza's stomach clenched. Afternoon, Miss Carter. Samuel called out, his eyes sliding past her to Wade. Heard you had some help with the harvest. News travels fast, she replied evenly. Tom climbed down from the wagon, his gaze lingering on her in a way that made her skin crawl. Looking good, Eliza. Been too long since we talked. Not long enough, she said under her breath. Wade had moved closer, still casual, but somehow filling more space than before. Miss Carter, should I get back to the field? This is Mr. Callahan, she said to the Morrisons. He's helping with the harvest. Wade, this is Samuel Morrison and his son Tom. They have the neighboring farm. Samuel's eyes narrowed. Callahan, don't believe I've seen you around these parts. Just passing through, needed work. Miss Carter needed help. Wade's voice was pleasant, but there was steel underneath. Tom stepped forward, chest puffed out. Well, we're here now. I'm sure we can handle whatever needs doing. No need for strangers. The work's already being done, Eliza said firmly. Was there something you needed? Just being neighborly. Samuel said, your PA had mentioned maybe selling that north parcel. Thought with him laid up. Pa's improving daily. Any business decisions will wait until he's fully recovered. Tom moved closer to her. Maybe we could discuss it over dinner sometime. Just you and me. I think not. Come on, Eliza. Can't stay mad forever about one little misunderstanding. Wade shifted slightly, and suddenly he was between them, examining his scarred hands with great interest. Miss Carter, that section we talked about won't cut itself. Best get back to it. Tom's face reddened. Nobody asked you, drifter. No, Wade agreed mildly. But Miss Carter hired me to work, not stand around chatting. Work's what I intend to do. He looked up then, meeting Tom's glare with those storm-gray eyes. Unless there's a problem with that. The moment stretched taut. Then Samuel put a hand on his son's shoulder. We'll come back when Jonathan's feeling better. Give him our regards. Eliza. They left in a cloud of dust and wounded pride. Eliza realized she was trembling. Whether from anger or relief, she couldn't say. Thank you, she said quietly. Wade picked up the scythe again. Man like that doesn't hear no well. Might be trouble. There's been trouble before. I imagine so. He paused. Want me to stay closer to the house for a bit? The offer surprised her, not the protection itself, but the way he asked, giving her the choice. Just keep your eyes open. Always do, Miss Carter, always do. That night at dinner, even Pa noticed the change in atmosphere. Wade was quieter than usual, alert in the way of a cat in a strange house. When hoofbeats sounded on the road, he was at the window before anyone else even registered the noise. Just passing by, he reported, returning to his seat. After he'd gone back to the barn, Pa spoke up. That young man's got the look of someone who's seen too much trouble. He works hard, Eliza said defensively. Didn't say otherwise, but he's got ghosts following him. Mark my words. Pa shifted in his chair, wincing. Question is whether those ghosts are the kind that stay buried or the kind that come calling. Later, as she checked the locks before bed, Eliza saw the soft glow from the barn again. This time, she didn't investigate, but she lay awake thinking about scars and promises, about the way Wade had stepped between her and Tom without making it seem like she needed protecting. He'd be gone in another day or two, she reminded herself. The harvest would be in, the deal complete. Whatever ghosts followed Wade Callahan, they'd move on with him. But as sleep finally took her, she found herself hoping those ghosts would stay buried just a little while longer. The banker arrived on a Thursday morning, his black carriage as ominous as a hearse against the golden wheat fields. Eliza recognized Martin Holbrook immediately, thin as a rake, with eyes that calculated the value of everything they saw. She was helping Wade load the last of the bound wheat when the carriage pulled up. Without a word, Wade set down his bundle and moved to lean against the wagon, casual but watchful. "Miss Carter," Holbrook tipped his hat perfunctorily. "I trust your father informed you of our arrangement." "Pa's been ill. Mr. Holbrook, perhaps you could refresh my memory?" His smile was sharp as glass. "The loan, Miss Carter, $300 borrowed against this land. Payment was due 2 weeks ago." Eliza's heart sank, but she kept her face calm. "As I said, Pa's been ill. There was an accident." "Unfortunate, but irrelevant to our business." He produced a leather folder. "You have 10 days to produce payment in full, or the bank will begin foreclosure proceedings." 10 days. The harvest isn't even to market yet." "That's not my concern. Good day, Miss Carter." As the carriage rolled away, Eliza gripped the wagon edge until her knuckles went white. She'd known about the loan, but thought they had until month's end. Pa must have confused the dates, or Holbrook was lying. $300, she said quietly. "Might as well be 3,000. Wade straightened from his post. "When's the grain buyer coming through?" "Not for 2 weeks, and even then..." She made calculations in her head. "Even with a good price, we'll be short by nearly half." She expected him to offer empty sympathy, or perhaps make excuses to leave now that real trouble had shown. Instead, he simply said, "Then we'd best get this grain stored proper. Can't sell damaged wheat." They worked in silence until noon, when Sarah called them for dinner. Pa was at the table, propped up with pillows, his face drawn with pain and worry. "I heard Holbrook," he said without preamble. "It's my fault, Eliza. I thought we had more time." "We'll figure something out. Pa, with what we've got, nothing left to sell except the land itself." The meal was somber, everyone lost in their own thoughts. Wade excused himself early, and through the window, Eliza watched him saddle his horse. So he was leaving after all. She couldn't blame him. Why stay for a family about to lose everything? But he rode back an hour later, dusty and thoughtful. That night, after everyone had retired, Eliza found him sitting on the porch steps, cleaning his Colt .45 with practiced movements. "Thought you'd left," she said, settling beside him with careful distance between them. "Just checking on something." He reassembled the gun with quick efficiency. "That banker, Holbrook, he hold paper on many farms around here." "A few. Why?" "Seems eager to collect. 10 days' notice is barely legal." "Legal enough, apparently." Wade holstered the gun and leaned back against the post. "I've seen men like him before. They don't want the money. They want the land. Probably has a buyer lined up already." "Even if that's true, what can we do? The debt is real." He was quiet for a long moment, then said, "I might know a way, but you won't like it." "Try me." "There's a prize fight in Cedar Ridge day after tomorrow. $100 purse for the winner." Eliza stared at him. "You want to fight?" "I've done it before. Not proud of it, but..." He shrugged. "Still be short, but it's a start." And if you lose, then I'll be too busted up to finish your harvest. His smile was crooked in the moonlight. But I don't plan on losing. She studied his profile, the broken nose, the scar through his eyebrow, a fighter's face. Now that she knew to look for it, why would you do this? It's not your debt. No, he agreed. But I took your money, your food and shelter. Man doesn't walk away from that when trouble comes. Most men would. I'm not most men, Miss Carter. The way he said her name, soft in the darkness, made something flutter in her chest. She stood quickly. I can't ask you to. You're not asking, I'm offering. He stood too, and suddenly the space between them felt too small. Let me do this. Eliza. It was the first time he'd used her given name. The sound of it in his rough voice sent heat down her spine. The prize fight's dangerous, she said weakly. So's losing your home. She had no argument for that. If you're serious about this fool idea, you'll need to be in better shape than you are. Come to the kitchen in the morning. I'll make a proper breakfast. Yes, ma'am. She was at the door when he spoke again. That Morrison boy. He been bothering you since his visit? No. Why? Saw fresh horse tracks by the north field. Looked like someone was watching the house. A chill ran through her. You think it was Tom? Can't say for certain, but I moved my bedroll where I can see all approaches to the house. Your rifle loaded? Always. Good. Keep it close. The next morning, Eliza woke to find Wade already at work, but not in the fields. He'd strung up a grain sack filled with sand from the barn beam and was pounding it with wrapped fists, sweat gleaming on his bare back despite the cool air. Sarah peeked around her shoulder. My goodness. Sarah May Carter, get away from that window. But Eliza found herself watching too. The way Wade moved spoke of long practice, not wild swings but calculated strikes, each blow precise and powerful. Those scars on his body told stories of violence, but so did the controlled way he fought even a hanging bag. At breakfast, his knuckles were raw despite the wraps. Eliza set down a bowl of hot water and clean cloth without comment. Thank you, he said, wincing as he cleaned the scrapes. Pa wants to talk to you, she said. He's got some concerns about this prize fight idea. She led him to Pa's room, where her father was sitting up, looking stronger but worried. Here you're planning to fight for money, Pa said without preamble. Yes, sir. You any good? Good enough. Pa studied him with eyes that had seen plenty of fighters in his time. What rules they using in Cedar Ridge? London prize ring. Most likely, maybe Queensberry if we're lucky. And if it's bare knuckle, last man standing. Wade's smile was grim. Then it'll be a longer night. Pa nodded slowly. I saw plenty of prize fights after the war. Lost money on most of them. But sometimes, he leaned forward. Sometimes you could tell a man had something driving him besides money. Those were the ones to bet on. I'll bring back the $100. Mr. Carter. See that you bring yourself back too. My daughter would be upset if you didn't. Wade glanced at Eliza. Something unreadable in his eyes. Wouldn't want that. That afternoon, while Wade continued his training, a familiar horse appeared on the ridge. Tom Morrison, watching again. This time, Wade saddled up and rode straight toward him. Eliza couldn't hear what was said, but she saw Tom's horse rear before he galloped away. What did you tell him? She asked when Wade returned. That private property's private, and trespassing's dangerous for the health. He won't take that well. Men like him never do. Wade dismounted, his hand brushing hers as he took the water she offered. But he'll think twice before skulking around again. That night, Eliza found herself back on the porch, unable to sleep. The lamp was burning in the barn again, but this time Wade emerged and joined her, moving quiet as a shadow. Can't sleep either, he asked. Too much to think about. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching clouds drift across the moon. Finally, Eliza spoke. My mother used to say God sends help when we need it most, even if it doesn't look like what we expected. Your mother sounds wise. She died 2 years ago. Fever took her quick. Eliza pulled her shawl tighter. She would have liked you. I think she always could see past the surface of people. And what would she have seen in me? Eliza turned to look at him. This dangerous man who quoted poetry and fought for strangers' debts. A good man trying to find his way back to himself. Wade went very still. In the moonlight, she could see his throat work as he swallowed. Your mother might have been wrong about that. My mother was never wrong about people. She stood to go inside, then paused. Whatever you were before, whoever owned those scars on your back, that's not who you are now. The man who's been helping us, who's going to risk his bones for our debt. That's who matters. She left him there in the darkness, but felt his eyes follow her all the way to the door. The morning of the fight, Wade was gone before dawn. He'd left a note. Gone to Cedar Ridge. We'll be back tomorrow with the money. Keep the rifle handy. W.C. Eliza tried to focus on chores, but every sound made her jump. Sarah noticed her distraction. He'll be fine, her sister said gently. You can see it in how he moves. He's done this before. That's what worries me. As the sun set, Eliza found herself holding Wade's note, running her thumb over his careful script. Such controlled handwriting for hands that could deal violence. Pa called her to his room as darkness fell. Stop fretting, girl. That man's got reasons to come back. The debt, you mean? Pa's eyes were knowing, if that's what you want to call it. That night, Eliza sat by her window with the rifle across her lap, watching the road. Every shadow could be Tom Morrison. Every sound Wade returning. She dozed fitfully in her chair, dreaming of gray eyes and scarred hands, of promises made in darkness and debts that couldn't be paid in money. When dawn broke without sign of him, the cold weight of dread settled in her stomach. Prize fights could go wrong so many ways. Men died in those rings, or were crippled, or simply disappeared with the purse money. But Wade Callahan had given his word, and somehow, despite all sense and reason, Eliza believed that word was worth everything. The morning sun was high when Wade's horse appeared on the ridge, moving slow. Eliza dropped the water bucket and ran to the gate, her heart hammering against her ribs. As he drew closer, she could see the damage. One eye swollen shut, dried blood on his shirt. His left arm cradled against his chest. He managed a crooked smile as he dismounted, though it clearly pained him. Told you I'd be back. You look half dead, she breathed, reaching out instinctively before catching herself. Feel about 3/4. He reached into his saddlebag with his good hand and produced a leather pouch. $100, as promised, plus 20 I won in side bets. Wade, your arm just needs wrapping. Had worse. But he swayed on his feet, and this time, Eliza didn't hesitate. She slipped under his good arm, taking his weight. Sarah, she called. Heat water and get the medical supplies. They got him to the kitchen, where he slumped in a chair like a puppet with cut strings. In daylight, the damage was worse. Split lip, bruised ribs visible through his torn shirt, knuckles raw and swollen. What happened? Sarah asked, bringing warm water and clean cloths. 1. Wade said simply. Took 12 rounds, but the other fellow stayed down eventually. Eliza began cleaning his face with gentle hands. 12 rounds. That's madness. That's prize fighting, he hissed as she touched a particularly deep cut. Morrison boy was there. Bet against me. Tom was at the fight. Him and some friends. Seemed real disappointed when I didn't stay down in the 8th round like he'd predicted. Eliza's hand stilled. He bet on you to lose in the 8th specifically. Wade's good eye met hers, sharp despite the pain. Makes you wonder if he had some arrangement with my opponent about making sure of it. That snake, Sarah spat with uncharacteristic venom. Can't prove anything, Wade said. But the fighter did seem mighty focused on my ribs after Tom had a word with him between rounds. Eliza resumed her ministrations, trying to ignore how her fingers trembled. Your ribs, are they broken? Cracked, maybe. They'll heal. He caught her hand as she reached for his shirt. I can manage. Don't be foolish. She kept her voice brisk, professional. Sarah, go check on Pa. Tell him Mr. Callahan's back. Once alone, she helped him ease off the remains of his shirt. The new damage overlaid the old scars like a brutal map. His ribs were purple-black with bruising, and she could see why he protected his left arm. The shoulder was swollen, probably wrenched. She worked in silence, wrapping his ribs tight, fashioning a sling for his arm. He bore it stoically, but she saw how his jaw clenched, how sweat beaded his forehead despite the cool morning. Why didn't you stay down? She asked finally. In the 8th round, when Tom expected it. Would have been easier, he admitted. Fighter had me good, could have taken the fall and no one would have questioned it. So why didn't you? His good eye found hers. Made a promise to bring back the money. Man doesn't break his word for convenience. You could have died for $100. No. His voice was soft but certain. Would have died for breaking faith with you. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Eliza busied herself with the bandages, not trusting her voice. When she reached for a cloth to clean a cut on his back, her fingers accidentally traced one of the whip scars. Wade went rigid. I'm sorry, I didn't mean. It's all right. He relaxed by degrees. They don't hurt anymore, just memories. Will you tell me? The question escaped before she could stop it. About the scars. Wade was quiet so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, worked for a man named Josiah Crane down in Texas. He called himself a businessman, but his business was other people's misery. Debt collection, mostly. The kind where you don't ask too many questions about the debt or the methods. Eliza continued wrapping bandages, letting him speak at his own pace. Was good at it. Too good. Crane started giving me harder jobs, not just collecting anymore. Intimidation, worse. Wade's voice went flat. Then he wanted me to burn out a family. Mexican farmers who couldn't pay, kids in that house, little ones. I refused. The whip scars. Crane believed in discipline. Said he'd bought me with wages, owned my loyalty, 20 lashes to remind me who I belonged to. His smile was bitter. Took them. Then left in the night with his prize horse and enough of his money to make it hurt. He came after you. Still is. Probably. Josiah Crane doesn't forgive betrayal. But Texas is far from here, and Wade Callahan isn't the name he knew me by. Eliza tied off the last bandage, her hands resting on his shoulders. What name did he know? One I buried. This is who I am now. She came around to face him. This battered man who'd taken a beating for her family's debt. I'm glad you refused him. About the family. Cost me everything I had. And gave you back your soul. Wade looked up at her with wonder. How can you be so sure I have one to save? Instead of answering, she touched his face gently, thumb brushing the bruise on his cheekbone. He caught her hand, holding it there, and for a moment the kitchen disappeared. There was only his gray eye locked on hers, the warmth of his skin, the space between them crackling like lightning about to strike. The door burst open. "Ryder, coming fast!" Sarah called. The moment shattered. Wade was on his feet despite his injuries, reaching for his gun belt, but his left arm couldn't manage it. "Let me," Eliza said, buckling it around his hips with steady hands. "Can you shoot with your right?" "If I have to." They moved to the porch as the rider resolved into Tom Morrison, fury written in every line of his body. He yanked his horse to a stop, dust swirling. "You cost me $200. Drifter." Wade leaned against the porch post, casual despite his injuries. "Should have bet smarter." You were supposed to go down in the 8th. Plans change. Tom's hand twitched toward his gun. Maybe you need another lesson about staying down. Tom, Morris, and Eliza stepped forward, rifle in hand. You're on our land uninvited. Again.
This isn't about you, Eliza. It's between me and him.
Everything on this property is my business, including threats to men under my roof. Tom's face went ugly. Under your roof, you letting this saddle tramp warm your bed now. The words hung in the air like a slap. Wade straightened, and even injured. There was something dangerous in his posture. Boy, you just crossed a line. Did I? What are you going to do about it, Drifter? You can barely stand. Don't need to stand to shoot straight. Wade, no, Eliza said quietly. He's not worth it. Tom laughed harsh. Listen to your woman, Drifter, while you still can. Meaning what exactly? Wade's voice had gone soft, which somehow made it more threatening. Meaning Holbrook's not the only one your family owes money to. My father's been patient about that loan for seed. But patience runs thin. Eliza felt the blood drain from her face. She'd forgotten about the smaller loan from Morrison, taken when Pa was first starting out. That was paid. Interest wasn't. Adds up over the years. About $150 by now. Tom's smile was vicious. Be a shame if we had to call that in too, unless... Unless what? Unless you reconsider my offer. Dinner, just the two of us. Chance to discuss arrangements. Wade made a sound low in his throat. Eliza put a hand on his good arm, feeling the tension vibrating through him. Get off our land. Tom, now. Think about it. Eliza, your pa's debts, your family's future, all could be settled real easy. He wheeled his horse around. I'll be waiting for your answer. Don't make me wait too long. After he was gone, Wade sagged against the post. Eliza guided him back inside, fury and fear warring in her chest. 150 more, she said numbly. We can't possibly. He's lying about some of it, Wade said. Man like that inflates numbers, but even half would be enough to cause problems. Sarah appeared in the doorway, face pale.
I heard. What are we going to do?
Not what he wants, Eliza said firmly.
I'd lose the farm before I'd let him.
No. Wade's voice was sharp.
You won't lose anything to men like that.
We can't fight the Morrisons. They practically own half the county. Wade was quiet for a moment, then said, In the barn, my saddlebags, inside lining of the left one. Eliza fetched the bags, finding a hidden pocket in the lining. Inside were papers and a small leather pouch. Count it, Wade said. She spilled out coins and bills.
Wade, there's nearly $300 here.
280. What's left of Crane's money? He met her shocked gaze steadily. Take what you need.
I can't.
You can and you will. He struggled to his feet. Consider it wages for a longer harvest season. This is everything you have. No. He swayed slightly, and she moved to support him. Got a horse, a gun, and a place to sleep tonight. That's more than I had when I left Texas. Wade.
Eliza.
The way he said her name stopped her protest. Let me do this. Let something good come from Crane's blood money. She wanted to refuse, wanted to throw the money back at him and handle her family's problems herself. But Sarah's frightened face, Pa's helplessness, the farm that was their whole world, all of it weighed against her pride. We'll pay you back, every penny. If you want, but there's no debt between us. His legs gave out then, and she barely got him to the spare room before he collapsed. Sarah helped her get him into the bed, where he passed out almost immediately. Exhaustion and pain finally claiming their due. Eliza sat beside the bed, watching him breathe, counting each rise and fall of his bandaged chest. This man who'd appeared from nowhere, who'd bled for them, who gave up everything he owned without thought of repayment. Her mother had been right. Sometimes help came in unexpected packages. Is he going to be all right? Sarah whispered from the doorway.
He's tough. He'll heal.
I meant, is he going to stay? Eliza touched the money pouch in her lap. He'd given them everything. What did that mean, a goodbye gift or a reason to remain?
I don't know,
she admitted. But as evening painted the room gold and Wade slept on, she found herself hoping desperately that his wounds would heal slowly, just slow enough to keep him here until she figured out why the thought of him leaving felt like another kind of debt, one that couldn't be paid in money. Outside, storm clouds gathered on the horizon, and somewhere in the distance, Eliza thought she heard hoofbeats, but Wade was sleeping peacefully, his gun within reach, and for now, that was enough. The autumn festival filled Cedar Ridge with lanterns and laughter, the smell of apple cider and fresh bread drifting through the crisp evening air. It had been 2 weeks since the prize fight, and Wade's injuries had healed enough for him to work again, though Eliza noticed he still favored his left side.
I haven't been to the festival since Ma died,
Eliza said, smoothing her blue dress nervously. It was her mother's, taken in at the waist and let out at the hem, but still the nicest thing she owned. Wade stood by the wagon in a borrowed shirt and clean pants, his hair still damp from washing, without trail dust and blood. He looked younger, though his eyes carried the same watchful weight.
You sure about this?
She asked. Tom Morrison will be there.
Let him be.
Wade helped her onto the wagon seat, his hands lingering on her waist.
You deserve a night of forgetting about debts and threats.
Sarah had stayed home with Pa, insisting Eliza needed time away from the farm.
Besides,
her sister had said with a knowing smile, Mr. Callahan cleans up nice. Be ashamed to waste it. Now, rolling into town with Wade beside her, Eliza felt exposed. People would talk. The Carter girl with the mysterious drifter, barely a month after he'd appeared. Having second thoughts? Wade asked, reading her tension.
No, I haven't done this in a long time.
Dancing.
Being seen with someone.
She glanced at him.
You know what people will assume.
Let them assume. His gray eyes found hers.
Unless it bothers you, being seen with a hired hand.
You're not. She stopped, flustered. What was he exactly more than a hired hand? But what label fit, it doesn't bother me. The festival sprawled across the town square, booths selling everything from pickled preserves to leather goods. Children ran between the stalls while couples strolled arm in arm. The dancing platform stood at the center, surrounded by paper lanterns that turned everything golden. Wade helped her down from the wagon, and immediately she felt eyes on them. Whispers followed their progress through the crowd. That's the Carter girl. Him hired some drifter. Heard he nearly killed a man in the prize fight. I'm living right there in the house with them. Eliza's cheeks burned, but Wade seemed unbothered. He guided her through the crowd with a light touch on her elbow, nodding politely to those who stared. They stopped at a booth selling cider, and Eliza tried to relax. The widow Hanson greeted them warmly. At least,
Eliza, dear, how's your father?
Improving, Mrs. Hanson. He's walking with a cane now.
Glad to hear it. And this must be the young man who helped with your harvest.
She studied Wade with shrewd eyes.
Heard you can work a field faster than 3 regular men.
Exaggeration. Ma'am, just did what needed doing. She handed them their cider with a smile.
Well,
any man who helps the Carter family is welcome in my book. You two enjoy the festival. The first friendly reception helped ease Eliza's nerves. They wandered through the booths, Wade buying her a ribbon for her hair despite her protests. She was laughing at his haggling technique when a familiar voice cut through her joy.
Well, didn't expect to see you here. Eliza.
Tom Morrison stood before them, flanked by 2 friends. His face still showed fading bruises from some altercation. Eliza wondered if it connected to the prize fight.
It's a public festival, Tom,
she said evenly. That it is. His eyes raked over her dress, lingering inappropriately. "You look different, almost worth the wait." Wade shifted slightly, putting himself partially between them. "Evening, Morrison." "Drifter." Tom's lip curled. "Surprised you can afford to take time from your work." "Man makes time for what matters." "And Eliza matters." Tom laughed ugly. "Careful there. She's got expensive tastes. Her family's debts prove that." "Tom," Eliza started. "Oh, that's right. You paid those debts, didn't you? Drifter must be nice. Having that kind of money just lying around makes a man wonder where it came from." Wade's expression didn't change, but Eliza felt him tense. "Wonder all you like. Maybe I'll do more than wonder. Sheriff might be interested in a stranger throwing around cash." "The sheriff's interested in a lot of things," Wade said mildly. "Like who's been cutting fences on the Carter property or shooting cattle. Funny how those things started right after Miss Carter turned down someone's dinner invitation." Tom's face flushed dark. "You accusing me of something?" "Just noting coincidences." One of Tom's friends tugged his sleeve. "Come on, Tom, dancing starting." Tom stepped closer, voice low and venomous. "This isn't over, Drifter. And you—" He looked at Eliza. "You'll regret choosing trash over quality." After they left, Eliza released a shaky breath. "I didn't know about cut fences and shot cattle. Happened this week. Didn't want to worry you." "Wade, you can't keep protecting us from everything." "Can try." He touched her elbow gently. "Come on, let's give them something else to whisper about." The dancing platform was crowded, but space opened when Wade led her up. The fiddle player started a waltz, and suddenly she was in his arms, one hand on his shoulder, the other held gently in his. "I should warn you," she said as they began to move. "I haven't danced since I was 16. Just follow me." His hand on her waist guided her surely. "Trust me." And she did. They moved together as if they'd done this 100 times, her skirt swirling, his strength keeping her steady. The whispers faded away until there was only the music and Wade's gray eyes holding hers. "Where did a hired gun learn to waltz?" she asked. "Same place he learned to quote poetry. Had a life before Crane." His expression softened. "Sometimes I remember pieces of it." They danced 3 songs before her feet protested. Wade fetched them drinks and found a quieter spot near the church steps. Eliza sat beside him, closer than proper, not caring who noticed. "Thank you," she said, "for tonight, for everything." "Nothing to thank me for." "Wade." She waited until he looked at her. "Why are you still here? You gave us the money. Your injuries have healed. Why stay?" He was quiet long enough that she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "First time I saw you, wrestling that harness with your jaw set stubborn and your hands bleeding, I thought, there's someone who doesn't quit, doesn't bow down." He studied his scarred hands. "Been a long time since I met someone worth standing still for." Her heart hammered against her ribs. "And now I think maybe I was running towards something all along. Just didn't know it." She leaned into him, just slightly, and felt his arm come around her shoulders. They sat like that, watching couples dance, pretending not to notice the scandalized looks from the church wives. "Eliza," his voice rumbled through his chest, "I need to tell you something. About the money." A commotion erupted near the dancing platform. Someone screamed. Wade was on his feet instantly, hand going to his gun before remembering he'd left it in the wagon. "Fire!" someone yelled. "The Morrison place is burning!" The crowd surged toward the edge of town, where an orange glow lit the horizon. Tom Morrison pushed through, face wild. "My barn, someone set fire to my barn." His eyes found Wade in the crowd. Accusation clear. You did this!" "I've been here all evening," Wade said calmly. "Plenty of witnesses." "You hired someone, then revenge for—" Tom stopped, realizing he was about to confess to the fence cutting. The sheriff appeared. a steady older man named Campbell. All right, everyone calm down. Tom, we'll investigate proper. Right now, we need to save what we can. Men rushed to help fight the fire. Wade moved to join them, but Eliza caught his arm. You didn't. No. His eyes were steady on hers. But I've got suspicions who did. Who? Man makes enemies in my line of work. Sometimes they follow. He touched her face gently. I should go help. Don't want Morrison claiming I avoided it. He disappeared into the crowd of men heading to fight the fire. Eliza stood alone, cold despite the warm night. Wade's words echoed. Sometimes they follow. The festival dissolved into chaos, families heading home early. Eliza waited by the wagon, watching the orange glow slowly diminish. When Wade returned, soot-stained and tired, she could see worry in his eyes. Barn's a total loss, he reported. But they saved the house. Tom, still blaming me, Sheriff told him to come by tomorrow with proof or shut up. They rode home in tense silence. Finally, Eliza asked, who do you think did it? Could be anyone Morrison's wronged. He's got a talent for making enemies. Wade hesitated. Or Crane had a man who liked fire, used it to send messages. His jaw tightened. But Texas is a long way off. They were pulling into the farm when they saw it. A piece of paper nailed to the gatepost. Wade jumped down, yanking it free. Even in moonlight, Eliza could see his face go hard as stone. What is it? He handed it up silently. In crude letters, you owe me a debt. Pay it or the girl burns next. Wade. Get to the house, now! His voice brooked no argument. Wake your father. Load every gun you have. You think he's here, Crane's man? I think the fire was a calling card. Wade unhitched the horse with quick efficiency. And I think I brought hell to your doorstep. They hurried inside, where Sarah waited anxiously. What happened? We saw the glow. Wade cut her off. Sarah, I need you to help your sister. Windows locked, curtains drawn, guns loaded. Can you shoot? Pa taught us both. Good. Anyone comes to the door tonight who isn't me or the sheriff, you shoot first and ask questions later. Wade, you're scaring them, Pa said from his chair, though his own face was grave. Good. Scared keeps you alive. Wade checked his Colt, then looked at Eliza. I'm going to check the perimeter. Bar the door behind me. Where are you going? To end this before it starts? He paused at the door. That dance tonight, it was worth whatever comes. Then he was gone, swallowed by darkness, leaving Eliza with a pounding heart and the taste of fear in her mouth. She'd thought their troubles were about debts and unwanted suitors. But Wade Callahan had brought something darker to their door shadows from his past that burned barns and left threats in the night. And despite the danger, despite the fear, she knew with bone-deep certainty that she wouldn't trade his presence for all the safety in the world. She loaded her rifle with steady hands and took position by the window. Whatever came with the dawn, they'd face it together. The night stretched endless, every shadow a threat, every sound a potential danger. Eliza stood watch by the window, rifle heavy in her hands, while Sarah tended to Pa. The house felt too quiet without Wade's presence. Near midnight, footsteps on the porch made her heart leap. Who's there? It's me. Wade's voice came low. All clear for now. She unbarred the door, relief flooding through her as he stepped inside. His clothes were damp with dew, eyes sharp with vigilance. Anything? Fresh tracks by the north field. One rider, maybe two. He set his rifle by the door. They're watching, not ready to move yet. Maybe it's not Crane's men, maybe... It is. His certainty chilled her. Found this by the tracks. He held up a bent coin, Mexican silver with a hole drilled through it. Crane's enforcer, Marcus Bent, carries one like this. His calling card. Eliza sank into a chair. So he followed you here?
Appears so.
Wade poured himself coffee with steady hands, but she saw the tension in his shoulders.
I should leave. Tonight. Draw them away from here.
No. The word came out sharper than intended. Wade looked at her, something flickering in his gray eyes.
Eliza?
You're injured, exhausted. Leaving now is suicide, and you know it. She stood, moving closer. Besides, running won't solve this.
You said Crane doesn't forgive? He'll just keep sending men.
That's my problem, not yours.
You made it ours when you stayed.
The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. We're in this together now. Wade set down his cup carefully.
You don't know what you're saying. Bent isn't some farm boy with hurt feelings.
He's killed more men than you've had birthdays. Then we'd better be ready for him. He stared at her, then laughed, short and rough.
You're something else. Eliza Carter.
Before she could respond, he turned serious. If you're set on this foolishness, we need to prepare. Bent likes to work in the dark, but he's cautious. He'll probe for weakness first. They spent the remaining hours strategizing. Wade positioned furniture to provide cover, showed Sarah and Eliza firing positions, checked and rechecked their weapons. As dawn approached, exhaustion weighed on them all. Get some rest, Wade told the sisters. I'll keep watch.
You need sleep too,
Eliza protested. I'll manage. Go on. She wanted to argue, but saw the futility. In her room, she lay fully dressed on the bed, rifle within reach. Sleep seemed impossible until it crashed over her like a wave. She woke to afternoon sun and the sound of hammering. Outside, Wade was boarding up the lower windows, making the house more defensible. His movements were efficient despite obvious fatigue. Any sign of them? She asked, bringing him water. Not yet, but tonight, probably. Bent likes to soften up his targets first. The fire at Morrison's, the note, all part of his game. You know him well. We worked together under Crane, before I grew a conscience. He accepted the water gratefully. He enjoyed the work too much, the fear, the power. When I left, I knew he'd take it personal. That evening, as shadows lengthened, Wade gathered them in the kitchen. Whatever happens, you stay inside. Windows covered, doors barred. If shooting starts, keep low and aim careful. Save ammunition.
What about you? Sarah asked.
I'll be doing what I do best. His smile was grim. Hunting. As darkness fell, he slipped outside again. Eliza took her position, pulse racing. The waiting was agony. Every minute stretched like an hour. Then a whistle in the darkness, low and mocking. Wade's rifle cracked once from somewhere near the barn. An answering shot came from the opposite direction. 2 attackers at least. Stay calm, Pa said from his chair, an old pistol in his lap. Wade knows what he's doing. More shots, moving around the property like a deadly dance. Then silence, worse than gunfire. Eliza strained to see through the gap in the boards, catching only darkness. A figure materialized from shadow, not Wade, tall and lean, moving with predatory grace toward the house. Eliza raised her rifle, sighting carefully. The man paused, head tilted as if listening. Then Wade emerged behind him like smoke. Colt drawn. Hello, Marcus. The tall man turned slowly, hands visible, even from the window. Eliza could see his smile. Wade, or whatever you're calling yourself now. His voice carried clear in the still air. Boss wants his money back, and you're hide for interest. Crane can want all he likes from hell. Marcus laughed. You always were dramatic, but Crane ain't dead. Friend, just real disappointed in you. Not your friend, never was. No, we rode together 2 years, shared whiskey, women, blood money. That's gotta count for something. It counts for nothing. Marcus shifted slightly. The farmers watching from the windows. They know what you are, what you've done.
They know enough.
Do they know about Tucson, that family? Wade's gun cocked audibly. Choose your next words careful. Marcus.
Touched a nerve. Good.
Marcus's grin widened. Here's the deal. You come with me. Peaceful like, and Crane just takes it out of your hide. These folks stay out of it. And if I don't, then I burn this place to ash with them inside. You know I will. Remember the Hendricks place, the screaming? Eliza's hands trembled on the rifle. She wanted to shoot, but Wade stood too close, the angle wrong. Counteroffer, Wade said calmly. You leave now. Tell Crane I died months ago, and I don't put a bullet in your skull. Can't do it, friend. Crane's offering $5,000 for you. That's retirement money. Then we've got a problem. The standoff stretched taut. Then Marcus moved fast as a striking snake. But Wade was faster. 2 shots split the night. Marcus staggered, clutching his shoulder, gun spinning away. You always were quick, he gasped. Wade kicked the fallen gun aside. Where's Crane? Go to hell. Wade pressed the Colt to Marcus's temple. Where? El Paso. Has a new operation there. Marcus laughed wetly. But it don't matter. He'll send more. And more. Until these farmers you're sweet on are dead and you're begging for the same. Wade hauled him to his feet. We'll see about that. He marched Marcus to the barn. Through the window. Eliza saw him binding the wounded man's hands. Then Wade emerged alone, crossing to the house with purposeful strides. Pack light, he said as soon as he entered. We're leaving. What? Eliza stared at him. Wade, we can't just... Marcus has a partner watching the road. They were planning to take me at dawn, burn the house if I resisted. His face was stone. I'm not letting that happen. So we abandon everything. Not run, hunt. His gray eyes found hers. I know where Crane is now. Time to end this proper. Wade. Pa spoke up. You're talking about taking my daughters into danger. I'm talking about keeping them alive. Crane thinks I care about this place. These people, he's right. Which means he'll use you against me if I leave you here. So what do you propose? Pa demanded. Wade ran a hand through his hair, suddenly looking exhausted. There's a marshal I know in Fort Worth, straight as they come. We get you there, under his protection, while I deal with Crane. Eliza stepped forward. Wade Callahan, if you think I'm hiding while you... He caught her shoulders gently. Eliza, please, I've brought enough darkness to your door. Let me fix it. The way you fixed it by yourself all these years, running, looking over your shoulder. She covered his hands with hers. That's not fixing, that's just surviving. It kept me alive. But what kind of life? They stood frozen, hands linked, everything unsaid hanging between them. Then Sarah cleared her throat. Not to interrupt, but there's still a man with a gun out there. Wade released Eliza reluctantly. Right, Marcus's partner is named Cole. Not as smart as Marcus, but twice as mean. He'll come looking when Marcus doesn't report back. So what do? We use Marcus as bait. Draw Cole in. Take him down. Wade checked his guns. Then we decide our next move. I'm coming with you, Eliza said. Eliza, you need someone watching your back. Sarah's a better shot than me anyway. She can guard the house. Sarah nodded, lifting her rifle. I've got Pa. You two handle the rest. Wade looked between the sisters, something soft crossing his features. How did I find the 2 most stubborn women in Texas? We're in Kansas, Eliza corrected. My mistake, though stubbornness seems universal. Despite everything, Eliza smiled. Then Wade was all business again, outlining the plan. It was simple. Use Marcus's whistle to draw Cole close, then take him before he realized the trap. They moved through darkness toward the barn, Wade leading with that uncanny silence, Inside, Marcus sat tied to a post, shoulder roughly bandaged. "This won't work," he said as they entered. "Cole's too careful." "We'll see." Wade pressed his Colt to Marcus's head. "Whistle. Same pattern you used before." "Go to hell." Wade thumbed back the hammer. "Whistle, or I'll assume Cole doesn't need to find you alive." Marcus glared but pursed his lips, sending out 3 low notes. They waited, tension thick as morning fog. Then answering whistles, closer than expected. Wade positioned himself by the door while Eliza crouched behind feed sacks, rifle ready. Marcus Cole's voice came cautious.
"You in there?"
"Yeah," Marcus called, Wade's gun encouraging honesty. "Got winged. Need help." Footsteps approached. The door creaked open, and Cole's bulk filled the frame. "Marcus?" "What?" Wade struck like lightning, gun butt connecting with Cole's temple. The big man dropped hard, out cold. That was anticlimactic. Eliza said, "Best fights are the ones that end quick." Wade was already binding Cole's hands. No glory in drawn-out violence. With both Crane's men secured, they returned to the house. Dawn was breaking, painting the sky pale pink. Pa and Sarah waited anxiously. "It's done," Wade reported. "For now."
"What happens to them?"
Sarah asked. "Sheriff can have them. Attempted murder, arson, plenty of charges." Wade slumped in a chair. "But Crane will send more." "Then we face them," Eliza said firmly. "Together." Wade looked at her with wonder and something deeper. "You do that, risk everything for a hired gun with too many shadows." She moved to him, not caring who watched. "You're not a hired gun anymore. You're Wade, our Wade, and we protect what's ours."
"Eliza,"
his voice broke slightly.
"I'm not worth—"
She silenced him with a finger to his lips.
"That's not your choice to make."
Pa cleared his throat. "If we're done with the dramatics, we need a plan. Can't fight off Crane's men forever." Wade nodded slowly. "Fort Worth first. Get you somewhere safe. Then I go after Crane directly." "We go after Crane," Eliza corrected. "Woman, you are the most infuriating."
"And you're stuck with me. Better get used to it."
They stared at each other, challenge and promise mixed in their gaze.
"Finally."
Wade smiled, a real one that transformed his face. "All right then, we go together." He stood, energy renewed. "Pack what matters. We leave within the hour." As the family scattered to prepare, Wade caught Eliza's hand. "You sure about this? It's not your fight." "It became my fight the moment you decided we were worth protecting." She squeezed his fingers. "The moment you gave us everything you had." "I'd give more if I had it."
"I know."
She rose on her toes, pressing a quick kiss to his cheek. "That's why we're going to win." She left him standing there, stunned, as she went to pack. Whatever came next, Crane, violence, uncertain roads, they'd face it as they'd faced everything else. Together, the journey to Fort Worth took 3 days of hard travel, watching their backs at every turn. Wade had sent word ahead to Marshal James Thornton, the one lawman he trusted. They'd left Marcus and Cole tied up for Sheriff Campbell with a note explaining the situation. Now, as they approached the bustling town, Eliza felt the weight of leaving home settling on her shoulders. Pa rode in the wagon with Sarah while she rode alongside Wade, learning to handle a horse like he did, ready to run or fight at a moment's notice. "Thornton's a good man," Wade said for the 3rd time. "He'll keep your family safe while we handle Crane." "While you handle Crane," Pa corrected from the wagon. "I won't have my daughter." "Pa," Eliza cut him off. "We've discussed this." They had, extensively. The argument had lasted through 2 campfires and countless miles. But Eliza wouldn't budge. Wade wasn't facing his demons alone. Fort Worth sprawled before them, bigger and louder than anything Eliza had experienced. Cattle drives, saloons, merchants hawking wares, civilization in all its chaotic glory. The marshal's office sat on Main Street, solid brick with barred windows. Thornton himself met them at the door, a grizzled man in his 50s with keen eyes that missed nothing. "Wade Callahan," he said, offering his hand. "Or should I say, William Carver?" Wade tensed. "That name's dead. Jim." "Maybe so, but Crane's been asking after it. Put out word from El Paso to Austin." Thornton's gaze swept the Carter family. "These the folks you mentioned?" "Jonathan Carter, his daughters Eliza and Sarah. They need protection while I settle things." "We need protection," Eliza corrected firmly. Thornton's eyebrows rose. "That's so, miss. No disrespect, but Josiah Crane ain't someone." "I know who he is," Eliza interrupted. "What he's done, what he'll keep doing unless stopped." "She goes where I go, Jim," Wade said quietly. "That's not negotiable." The marshal studied them both, then sighed. "Lord save me from stubborn women and the fools who love them." He turned to Pa. "Mr. Carter, I've arranged rooms at Mrs. Dalton's boarding house. Clean, safe, and I've got deputies who'll keep watch." "What about Crane?" Wade asked. "Holed up at the Imperial Hotel, playing respectable businessman. Has maybe 6 men with him." Thornton's expression darkened, including one you'll remember, Samuel Trent. Wade's hand moved unconsciously to his scarred back. "Trent's here." "Who's Trent?" Eliza asked. "Crane's enforcer. The one who—" Wade's jaw tightened. "The one who held the whip." They settled Pa and Sarah at the boarding house. Despite Sarah's protests about being left behind, Wade promised they'd send word daily, though Eliza could see he doubted there'd be many days to count. That evening, in a small room Thornton secured for planning, Wade spread out a map of the town. Imperial Hotel's like a fortress. Crane learned from past mistakes, always has men watching, never travels alone. He marked positions with methodical precision. "Direct assault suicide." "So we draw him out," Eliza suggested. "With what bait?" Wade looked grim. "He knows I'm here now. He'll wait. Let me make the first mistake." "Unless we give him reason to move." Thornton leaned back. "There's a cattle buyers meeting tomorrow night. Big social event. Crane never misses those. Has to maintain his legitimate front. Too public, too many innocents." "Not at the event," Thornton clarified. "But traveling to and from, that's different." They planned late into the night. The strategy was risky. Intercept Crane's carriage on a quiet street. Force a confrontation away from bystanders. Thornton would have deputies stationed nearby. But the main work would fall to Wade. "I still think," Eliza began. "No." Wade's voice was flat. "You're not facing Trent. Not happening." "I can shoot." "This isn't about shooting. It's about—" He stopped, running a hand through his hair. "Trent enjoys hurting people, especially women. I won't give him the chance." The raw pain in his voice killed her argument. She touched his hand gently. "Then what can I do?" "Keep watch. If things go bad, get to Thornton." He turned his hand to grip hers. "Promise me. If I fall, you run." "Wade." "Promise me." She saw the fear in his eyes, not for himself, but for her. "I promise," she lied. The next day crawled past. Wade cleaned his weapons obsessively while Eliza practiced with the smaller pistol he'd given her. Neither spoke much, the weight of evening pressing down. As dusk approached, they met Thornton at the predetermined spot, an alley overlooking the route to the Imperial Hotel. "Crane left 20 minutes ago," Thornton reported. 4 men with him, including Trent. They'll return this way within 2 hours. Wade checked his guns one final time. "Remember, Jim, this is my fight. Your deputies stay back unless it spills over. And if you're killed..." Then you arrest whatever's left for murder." They waited in tense silence. Eliza positioned herself on a balcony overhead, rifle ready, heart hammering. Below, Wade stood in shadow, still as death. The sound of hooves and wheels announced Crane's approach. An ornate carriage rolled into view, 2 riders ahead, 2 behind. Wade stepped into the street, coat pushed back to show his guns.
"Hello, Josiah."
The carriage lurched to a stop. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the door opened and Josiah Crane emerged, older than Eliza expected, silver-haired and elegant, like a banker or politician. "William," Crane said pleasantly, "though I hear you go by Wade now, hiding behind your mother's maiden name." "Just trying to leave the past buried." "The past has a way of clawing back up." Crane adjusted his cuffs casually. "You cost me considerable money, William, and reputation, which is worth more. I left your blood money on the table. What I took was owed in wages. You left after destroying my property and stealing my horse." Crane's voice hardened. "After I raised you up from nothing, gave you purpose. You gave me scars and nightmares. I gave you discipline, made you into something useful instead of another drunk drifter." The guards had dismounted, spreading out. Eliza tracked them with her rifle, palms sweating. Where was Trent? "I've got a new life now." Wade said, "Leave it be, and we both walk away." Crane laughed, cultured and cold. "Oh, William, you think this is a negotiation, Trent?" A figure melted from the shadows behind Wade Trent, tall and scarred, holding a shotgun. "Drop the guns, boy," Trent drawled, slow and easy. Wade's shoulders sagged in defeat. He reached for his guns. Then everything happened at once. Wade spun, drawing and firing in one motion. Trent's shotgun boomed, but Wade was already moving. Guards went for their weapons. Eliza's rifle cracked, dropping one before he cleared leather. Wade rolled behind a water trough as bullets split the air. He came up firing, precision in every shot. Another guard fell. Crane scrambled for the carriage. "Stop him!" Eliza shouted, but her angle was wrong. Trent, wounded but not dead, raised the shotgun again. Wade turned to face him. Eliza's shot took Trent in the chest. He staggered, surprise replacing cruelty on his face, then collapsed. "No." Crane's composure finally cracked. "Kill them! Kill them both!" The remaining guards advanced, firing wildly. Wade picked off one. Then his gun clicked empty. The last guard grinned, raising his weapon. Thunder rolled down the street. Not guns, hooves. Thornton and his deputies charged in, badges gleaming. "Drop your weapons, Marshal's office." The guard hesitated, then threw down his gun. Crane stood by his carriage, face twisted with rage. "You can't arrest me," he snarled. "I've done nothing illegal here." "Ordering murder seems pretty illegal," Thornton observed. "Plenty of witnesses, too. My lawyers will—" "Your lawyers will watch you hang," Wade said quietly. He'd moved to stand over Trent's body, something like peace on his face. "It's over, Josiah." Crane's mask finally shattered completely. "You worthless trash, I made you everything you are." "Everything I was," Wade corrected. "I'm something different now." As deputies cuffed Crane, he spat one last curse. "This isn't over. William, I have friends, influence, and I have testimony." Thornton interrupted. "About your operations in Texas. Rangers are very interested in talking to you." They led Crane away, his threats fading into the night. Wade stood still, staring at nothing. Eliza climbed down and approached carefully. "Wade." He turned to her, and she saw tears tracking through the gunpowder on his face. "He's right. You know, Crane, he did make me what I was." "No." She took his face in her hands. "He tried to make you a monster. You chose to be a man instead." "I've done terrible things," Eliza, things that can't be undone.
And now you've done this, protected innocent people, stopped a evil man.
She wiped his tears with her gentle fingers.
That's who you choose to be now.
He pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. She held him as he shook. Years of running finally ended. "Thank you," he whispered.
For seeing something worth saving.
"Always," she whispered back. Thornton cleared his throat nearby. "Not to interrupt, but we should get off the street. And Miss Carter, that was some fine shooting. My PA taught me well. Remind me to thank him." Thornton smiled. "Wade, there's paperwork to sort, but Crane won't wiggle free. Too many witnesses. Too much evidence." They returned to the boarding house to find Pa and Sarah anxiously waiting. The story spilled out in fits and starts. Wade downplaying his role while Eliza insisted on the truth.
"So it's over?"
Sarah asked hopefully. "This part is," Wade confirmed. "Crane will hang or rot in prison. His men will scatter." He looked at Pa. "You can go home safely now." "What about you?" Pa asked shrewdly. "You still running from something?" Wade glanced at Eliza. "No, sir. Think I finally found something to run to." Later, on the boarding house porch, Eliza and Wade sat watching the stars. The night was peaceful, no longer filled with threat. "What now?" she asked. "Now," Wade considered. "Now I figure out how to be the man you seem to think I am."
"You already are."
She leaned into him.
"Just took you a while to see it."
"What about your farm, your life there?" "It'll keep. Sarah can manage while we're gone." "Gone where?" She smiled.
"Wherever you need to go to lay the rest of your ghosts. Then home."
"Home," he repeated, testing the word.
"Never really had one of those."
"You do now, if you want it." He turned to face her fully.
"Eliza May Carter, are you proposing something improper?"
"Wade Callahan," she replied primly.
"I'm proposing something entirely proper,
eventually, after you court me appropriate-like. Even though you've seen what I am, what I came from. Not despite it, because of it." She kissed him softly.
"You fought so hard to become good. That's worth more than being born to it."
He deepened the kiss, pouring years of loneliness and newfound hope into the connection. When they parted, both were breathless. "How long's appropriate courting take?" he asked roughly.
"Oh, at least a month, maybe 2.
"Woman, you'll be the death of me." "But what a way to go." They laughed, the sound bright in the darkness. Inside, through the window, Eliza could see her family, safe, whole, no longer under threat. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Wade still had healing to do, still had to learn to live without looking over his shoulder. There'd be nightmares and difficult days. But tonight, sitting beside this complicated, scarred, wonderful man, Eliza felt nothing but hope. He'd given up his past for their future. Now she'd help him build something new from the ashes. "Thank you," she said softly, "for staying, for fighting, for choosing us." "Thank you," he replied, "for giving me something to choose." They sat together until the stars faded, planning a life neither had dared imagine, and in the morning, they'd begin to build it. Together. Winter arrived early that year, bringing bitter winds and the first dustings of snow to the Kansas plains. 3 months had passed since Fort Worth, since Crane's arrest and the end of running. The Carter farm had settled into new rhythms, with Wade as much a part of it now as the weathered fence posts and morning coffee. But peace, Eliza was learning, wasn't always peaceful for a man who'd lived by the gun. She found Wade in the barn before dawn, sitting on a hay bale with his head in his hands. Another nightmare. She could tell by the sweat on his shirt despite the cold, the way his shoulders hunched as if expecting blows.
"Bad one?"
she asked softly, wrapping a shawl around his shoulders. "Thought I was back there, with Trent." His voice came rough, haunted. "Could feel the whip again. But you're not there. You're here. With us. She sat beside him. Not touching yet. She'd learned to let him come back to himself first. Sometimes I wonder if I deserve to be. He finally looked at her. Gray eyes full of shadows. All those families I collected from Eliza. All that hurt I caused is in the past, and you've been sending money to make amends where you can. She'd helped him write the letters, anonymous gifts to families he'd wronged under Crane's orders. Money doesn't erase what I did. No, but it helps, and living better now. That matters too. He pulled her close then, breathing in the scent of her hair. What did I do to deserve you? You stayed, she said simply. You chose to be better. That's everything. They sat quietly until the sun painted the barn gold. Then Wade straightened, pushing the darkness back where it belonged. Your father wants help with a new fence line today, he said, almost normal again. After breakfast, Sarah's making biscuits. The burned ones. She's getting better, Eliza defended, though they both knew Sarah's cooking remained adventurous at best. Walking back to the house hand in hand, they found Pa already at the table, studying a letter with furrowed brows. What is it? Eliza asked, pouring coffee. From Montana. Remember that deed Wade found in his things, the land Crane bought under a false name? Pa held up the paper. Seems it's legitimate. 40 acres near Billings. Wade frowned. I want nothing of Crane's. Not Crane's anymore. He signed it over to William Carver years ago, probably planning to hide assets there. With him in prison, no one's contested your claim. I'm not William Carver. No, Pa agreed. But legally, the land's yours free and clear. Sarah burst through the door, cheeks red with cold and excitement. Snow's getting heavier, real snow, not just dustings. Good for the winter wheat, Pa noted. Wade, you might want to decide about that land before spring. Could sell it. Start fresh here with the proceeds. Or, Sarah said slyly, could build something there. I hear Montana's beautiful. Perfect for starting new. Eliza shot her sister a warning look, but the seed was planted. She saw Wade considering, wheels turning. That evening, as snow fell steady outside, Wade found Eliza mending by the fire. Been thinking about that land, he said without preamble. Oh, 40 acres isn't much, but it's something. Could run some cattle, maybe horses. He sat beside her, taking her hands. Been 3 months. Eliza, that's longer than your appropriate courting requirement. Her heart jumped. Wade Callahan, are you? Not yet. He smiled at her expression. Want to do this right? Talk to your father first. Make sure. He already approves. He's been dropping hints since Fort Worth. Still, Wade's thumb traced circles on her palm. But if I was to ask, what would you say to Montana? I'd say it's cold. Eliza. She set aside her mending, facing him fully. I'd say wherever you are is home. Here, Montana, the moon doesn't matter. You'd leave your family, your life here. To build a new life with you, yes. She touched his face gently. Wade, I've watched you these months. You've worked yourself raw helping Pa. Been patient with Sarah's attempts at matchmaking. Sent half your savings to strangers seeking forgiveness. You're a good man. I'm trying to be. No, you are. The trying was before. Now you just are. He kissed her then, deep and sure, full of promise. When they parted, his eyes were clearer than she'd ever seen them. I'll talk to your father tomorrow. Tonight, she corrected. He's probably listening at the door anyway. I am not, came Pa's muffled voice, followed by Sarah's giggle. Wade laughed, real and free. Tonight, then. The conversation with Pa was shorter than expected. About time, was all Jonathan Carter said, shaking Wade's hand. Was starting to think I'd have to propose for you. Pa, Eliza protested. What man's been mooning over you for months? You've been worse.
Sarah and I were taking bets on when you'd finally settle it.
Who won? Wade asked. Amused.
Sarah. She had more faith in your courage.
The impromptu celebration was interrupted by hoofbeats outside. Wade tensed automatically, hand moving to where his gun used to rest. Old habits died hard. But it was Sheriff Campbell, snow-covered and bearing news.
Wade, Miss Eliza. Jonathan. Sorry to intrude, but thought you should know. Got a telegram from Fort Worth. Josiah Crane is dead.
The room went still. Wade's face became a mask.
How?
Killed in prison, another inmate, settling old scores apparently. Man had a lot of enemies. Good riddance, Sarah said fiercely.
Sarah May, Pa admonished.
Well, it's true. After everything he did. Still a man's life, Wade said quietly. Even his... Sheriff Campbell handed over an envelope. Marshal Thornton sent this. Said you'd want to know the details. After the sheriff left, Wade read the letter in silence, then passed it to Eliza. Crane had been killed by someone he'd wronged years before. Poetic justice of the brutal kind.
It's really over, she said softly. That part is...
Wade stared into the fire.
Man's dead, but his lessons remain. The scars...
Make you who you are. Someone who understands darkness and chooses light anyway. That night, unable to sleep, Eliza found Wade on the porch despite the cold, watching snow fall.
Regrets?
She asked, joining him.
No, just thinking.
Crane was evil, but he was right about one thing. He did shape me. Wade pulled her against his side. Everything I learned from him, I've had to unlearn with you. Such as... That kindness is weakness. That trust gets you killed. That nobody stays. He kissed her temple. You've proved him wrong on all counts.
We've proved him wrong. Pa, Sarah, even the town accepting you, it's not just me.
But you started it, that first day, giving water to an armed stranger, trusting when you had no reason to. I had reasons. The way you were gentle with your horse. How you asked permission instead of taking small things. But they mattered. They watched the snow, transforming the familiar landscape into something new and clean. Finally, Wade spoke again. When do you want to marry? Spring, she answered immediately. When things start growing again. Seems fitting.
And Montana?
After harvest,
give Pa time to find help. Get Sarah settled.
She smiled.
Maybe by then she'll have stopped burning biscuits.
Or found some poor soul who likes them burned. They laughed quietly, planning a future that once seemed impossible. The man who'd arrived seeking water had become family. The woman who'd offered it had become his salvation. Inside, Pa and Sarah had long since retired, trusting the couple to observe proprieties. Wade walked Eliza to her door, kissing her with restrained passion.
3 more months,
he murmured against her lips. You've waited this long.
Barely.
Wade Callahan, are you suggesting improper thoughts? Been suggesting them for months. You just weren't listening. She swatted his arm, laughing.
Good night, you impossible man.
Good night, future Mrs. Callahan. The name sent warmth through her. I like the sound of that.
So do I.
As she prepared for bed, Eliza could hear Wade settling into his usual spot. He still slept in the barn most nights, partly for propriety, but mostly because 4 walls sometimes felt too much like a cage. But more and more, he spent evenings inside, learning to be part of a family again. The letter from Montana sat on her dresser. 40 acres and a new beginning. She'd missed this place, her childhood home, but adventure called, and the man she loved needed space to finally stop running and start living. Through her window, she could see light in the barn, not the watchful tension of those early nights, but Wade reading by lamplight, working through the books Ma had left behind, filling gaps in his education. He'd discovered a love of poetry that surprised them both, quoting verses at unexpected moments. Tomorrow would bring wedding planning and winter chores. There'd be gossip in town about the Carter girl marrying the reformed gunman. Some would never accept Wade's transformation. But tonight, with snow blanketing the world and spring promising new beginnings, Eliza felt nothing but gratitude. She'd offered water to a dangerous stranger and discovered the man beneath the scars. He'd offered her adventure beyond the farm's borders and shown her strength she didn't know she possessed. Together, they'd face whatever came: Montana winters, suspicious neighbors, the shadows that sometimes still haunted Wade's eyes. She pulled extra quilts onto her bed, smiling at the thought of sharing warmth come spring. 3 months, after everything they'd survived, 3 months was nothing. Through the storm, she heard it, Wade's harmonica, a new addition to his possessions. The melody was simple but sweet, a lullaby for the night. Eliza fell asleep to the music, dreaming of spring weddings and Montana skies, of building something new with a man who'd learned to hope again. The winter would be long, but spring always came, and with it, the rest of their lives. The blizzard struck without mercy, trapping them inside for 3 days straight. By the second night, the temperature had dropped so low that frost formed inside the windows. Wade had moved into the house at Pa's insistence, no sense freezing in the barn for the sake of propriety when survival was at stake. They sat around the kitchen stove, its warmth the only thing standing between them and the killing cold. Sarah was knitting. Pa dozed in his chair, and Wade cleaned his guns with mechanical precision, a nervous habit Eliza recognized. "Storm should break by morning," Pa said, not opening his eyes. "Seen worse in 61. "The animals?" Eliza asked. "Secured them best we could." Wade replied, "Moved what stock we could to the sheltered side of the barn." The wind howled like something alive and angry. Rattling the windows, the house groaned under the assault, but held firm. Pa had built well all those years ago. "Tell us a story, Wade," Sarah said suddenly. "Something from your travels." "Not many stories fit for polite company." "Then tell an impolite one." Sarah grinned. "We're not delicate flowers." Wade glanced at Eliza, who nodded encouragingly. He set aside the gun parts, thinking. "There was a town in New Mexico," he began slowly. "Nothing there but dust and disappointed dreams. I was working for Crane then, collecting a debt from a merchant." The family listened, drawn by his rare willingness to share his past. The merchant was broke, genuinely broke, not hiding assets. Had a daughter about Sarah's age, terror in her eyes when she saw me. Wade's jaw tightened at the memory. I was supposed to take whatever he had, make an example. That's what Crane paid me for. "What did you do?" Sarah asked softly. "Told the merchant to run, gave him $20 of my own money and told him to get his family somewhere safe." Wade smiled grimly. "Then I went back to Crane and said the man had died defending his property. Even showed him blood on my shirt, pig's blood from the butcher. He believed you. For a while, long enough for that family to disappear proper." Wade picked up the gun parts again. "Crane found out eventually. That was the first time he had Trent whip me, 10 lashes for lying." "But you saved them," Eliza said. "Maybe, or maybe they died on the trail to somewhere else. Never knew." He reassembled the pistol with practiced ease. "But at least they had a chance. That's all any of us get, a chance." The storm raged on. They played cards by lamplight, told stories, shared the kind of quiet intimacy that only comes from being snowbound together. When bedtime came, sleeping arrangements had to be practical. "Sarah, you'll share with Eliza." Pa directed. "Wade, you take Sarah's room. No sense anyone freezing alone tonight." Wade nodded, though Eliza saw the flicker of something in his eyes. Longing, maybe, or just awareness of proximity. 3 months until spring seemed very long in that moment. Deep in the night, Eliza woke to silence,
The storm had finally exhausted itself. She slipped from bed, careful not to wake Sarah, and padded to the kitchen for water. Wade was already there, staring out at the white-buried world. He turned at her approach, and she saw he'd been crying, silent tears that spoke of nightmares and memories. "Bad dream," she whispered. "The cold brings things back." He wiped his face, embarrassed. "Sorry, didn't mean to wake anyone." "You didn't." She moved closer, close enough to feel his warmth. "Tell me." "There was a winter. Crane had me tracking a man through the mountains. Fugitive who'd stolen from him. I tracked him for days through snow like this." Wade's voice went distant. "Found him frozen to death, still clutching the money. $100. Man died for $100 in a canvas bag." "You didn't kill him." "Didn't save him either. Just collected the money. Brought it back. Crane gave me a bonus for efficiency." His laugh was bitter. "I bought a new coat with it. Still feel that dead man's cold sometimes." Eliza took his hands, finding them ice cold despite the warm kitchen. "You're not that man anymore." "No, then why do I still see him in the mirror?" "Because healing isn't forgetting. It's remembering and choosing different anyway." She pressed his hands between hers, warming them. "Every kindness you show, every gentle word, that's you choosing different." They stood close in the darkness, her hands holding his, the moment stretched taut between propriety and need. Wade lifted one hand to her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. "Eliza." "I know," she breathed. "Spring." "Spring," he agreed, but neither moved away. The spell broke when a log shifted in the stove, sending up sparks. They stepped apart, breathing unsteady. "You should sleep," Wade said roughly. "Tomorrow will bring hard work, digging out." "You too. And Wade, no more nightmares. That's an order." "Yes, ma'am." His smile was soft in the dying firelight. "Though you're not my wife yet to be giving orders." "Practice," she said archly, and fled before the heat in his eyes could weaken her resolve. The next morning brought brilliant sunshine on a transformed world. Drifts reached the windows in places, and it took hours of shoveling just to reach the barn. They found they'd lost 3 chickens to the cold but otherwise survived intact. Tom Morrison appeared around noon, checking on neighbors, a surprise that left them wary. "Lost near half my cattle," he said, accepting coffee with thanks. "Thought I'd see how others fared." "We managed," Pa said carefully. Tom's eyes found Wade. "You did good work, securing their stock. Saw the windbreaks you built last month. Smart thinking." "Just sense," Wade replied, equally careful. They stood in awkward silence until Tom cleared his throat. "Look, I was wrong. About a lot of things. What you did to Crane, saving folks from him. That took courage I don't have." Wade studied him for a long moment. "Takes courage to admit wrong, too." Tom nodded, relief flickering across his face. "The Hendersons lost their barn roof. Few of us are heading over to help. Could use another strong back if you're willing." It was an olive branch, unexpected but genuine. Wade glanced at Eliza, who gave a tiny nod. "Let me get my tools," Wade said. As the men prepared to leave, Tom paused by Eliza. "I'm sorry for everything. You deserve better than I showed you." "Water under the bridge. Tom, just treat the next girl with more respect." "Yes, ma'am, and Eliza, you chose well. He's a good man." After they left, Sarah whistled low. "Will wonders never cease?" "People can change," Pa said thoughtfully, "given reason and chance." They spent the day digging out, repairing what the storm had damaged. That evening, Wade returned exhausted but oddly lighter, working alongside the town men, being accepted as one of them. It mattered more than he'd probably admit. "How was it?" Eliza asked, helping him out of his frozen coat. "Good. We got the roof patched, saved most of their stored grain." He flexed his fingers, wincing.
Tom Morrison's not bad when he's not being a fool. Most men aren't.
Speaking from vast experience, he teased. Just the one, she said, then blushed at her boldness. Wade caught her hand, suddenly serious. I need to go to town tomorrow. Talk to Reverend Mills. About spring weddings, wanting to make sure that he's willing to marry us. Why wouldn't he be? Wade's expression was carefully neutral.
Some preachers have opinions about men like me. Want to know up front if we need to find another.
Her heart ached for him, still expecting rejection despite months of acceptance. Reverend Mills married my parents. He'll marry us.
You sound sure. I am, because I'll convince him if needed. You're not the only one who can be persuasive. Wade Callahan. Lord help me, I believe it. The next day, Eliza insisted on accompanying him to town. They found Reverend Mills in his study, a kind-faced older man who listened to Wade's halting request with patient attention. Mr. Callahan, he said when Wade finished. I've heard your story. The whole town has, and I've watched you these months. How you've worked, how you've treated the Carters, how you've sought to make amends for past wrongs. Wade waited, tension in every line of his body. I'd be honored to perform your wedding. A man seeking redemption, choosing love over violence, that's God's work made manifest. Wade's relief was palpable.
Thank you, Reverend. Thank you.
Have you given thought to the date? First week of May, Eliza said, when the wildflowers bloom. A fine choice. We'll need to post banns, of course, and... The door burst open. Young Timothy Henderson, face flushed from running. Reverend Mr. Callahan, come quick riders coming in hard from the south. Maybe 15 men, all armed. Wade was moving before the boy finished speaking. Eliza right behind. They reached the street as the riders thundered into town, hard-faced men with the look of trouble. The lead rider dismounted, tall and lean with dead eyes. Looking for someone. Goes by Wade Callahan. Sometimes William Carver. Heard he might be in these parts. Wade stepped forward, hand hovering near his gun. I'm Callahan. What's your business? The man smiled without warmth. Name's Jacob Cross. Rode with Josiah Crane till someone killed him. We're collecting his debts. Crane's dead. His debts died with him. See, that's where we disagree. Cross moved closer, his men spreading out. You cost us all a lot of money when you turned on him. Figure you owe us compensation. Sheriff Campbell appeared. Shotgun prominent. This is a peaceful town. Stranger. State your business and move on. Our business is with Callahan. Turn him over. We'll leave peaceful like. Can't do that, Campbell said steadily. Man's done nothing wrong here. The tension stretched wire-tight. Eliza counted exits, weapons, possibilities, 15 men, all armed. The math was bad. Then Tom Morrison stepped out of the general store, rifle in hand. Wade's one of us now. You want him. You go through all of us. Other townsmen appeared. The banker, the blacksmith, men Wade had worked beside. Not many, but enough to even the odds. Cross's eyes narrowed. This isn't your fight, townspeople. Made it ours when you rode in threatening neighbors. Someone called out. Wade moved forward slightly. Cross, you want me fine, but not here. Too many innocents. Wade, no, Eliza breathed. He didn't look at her. Meet me at Skeleton Ridge at sunset. Just you and me. Winner walks away. Losers people accept it as done. Cross considered. You're calling single combat old rules. Old rules, one-on-one. No interference. Wade, Eliza grabbed his arm. You can't. It's the only way no one else dies. He finally met her eyes. Trust me. Cross nodded slowly. Skeleton Ridge, sunset. You don't show. We burned this town looking for you. The riders wheeled and left in a cloud of dust. The moment they were gone. Eliza rounded on Wade. Are you insane, single combat with a killer? Better than a street fight with civilians caught in the middle. He touched her face gently. I won't let Crane's poison touch this place. Not our home.
Our home doesn't matter if you're dead.
Eliza. His voice was soft but firm. This is who I am. Who I'll always partly be. The man who stands between trouble and innocence. Can you accept that? She wanted to say no, to rage against the unfairness. Instead, she said, Then I'm coming with you. Absolutely not.
Try to stop me.
They glared at each other until Pa spoke up.
She's her mother's daughter, son, stubborn as they come.
Better to have her where you can see her than following anyway. Wade looked between them, then laughed, short and resigned. Fine, but you stay back, far back, and if things go bad,
I'll shoot cross myself,
Eliza said sweetly. Lord help me, Wade muttered. Reverend, that spring wedding might need to be sooner. Don't think I'll survive 3 more months of this woman. But his eyes were warm, grateful even. He'd face his past one more time, but not alone, never alone again. The sun was already sinking toward Skeleton Ridge, painting the sky red as blood. Time to end Crane's legacy once and for all. The wedding took place on a May morning when wildflowers painted the prairie in purple and gold. Wade stood at the altar in a new black suit, his weathered hands clasped tight as he waited. The small church was packed. It seemed the whole county had come to witness the union of Eliza Carter and the reformed gunman who'd won their respect. Nervous, Reverend Mills asked quietly.
Terrified,
Wade admitted. Face down killers with less fear.
Good. Means it matters.
The door opened, and Sarah appeared in her blue bridesmaid dress, scattering flower petals. Then came Eliza on her father's arm, wearing her mother's wedding dress altered to fit, a crown of wildflowers in her hair. Wade's breath caught. After everything, the violence, the running, the nights he'd thought himself beyond redemption, here stood proof that life could begin again. Pa placed Eliza's hand in Wade's with gruff emotion. Take care of her, son.
With my life,
Wade promised. The ceremony was simple, their vows traditional with one addition. When it came time for rings, Wade spoke words he'd written himself. This ring was bought not with blood money, but honest wages. It carries no shadows, no debts. Like my life from this day forward, clean and yours alone. Eliza was crying by then, not caring who saw.
And this ring,
she said, sliding the band onto his scarred finger, promises that you'll never bear your shadows alone again. Your past is part of you, and I choose all of you. By the power vested in me, Reverend Mills said, smiling broadly. I pronounce you husband and wife. Wade, you may kiss your bride. Their kiss was tender, full of promise, while the church erupted in cheers. Even Tom Morrison, standing with his new bride Margaret, applauded genuinely. The reception filled the churchyard with music and laughter. Tables groaned under the weight of food neighbors had brought. Wade and Eliza danced to fiddle music, lost in each other while the world celebrated around them. No regrets, Wade murmured in her ear. Only that it took so long, she replied. Sheriff Campbell pulled Wade aside during a break in the dancing. Letter came for you yesterday. From Montana. Wade opened it, Eliza reading over his shoulder. A lawyer in Billings confirmed their land claim was ready for possession, along with unexpected news. A small herd of cattle already grazed there, left by a previous failed venture. We're ranchers, Eliza breathed. Real ranchers. If we can figure out how to ranch, Wade said wryly, we'll learn together. As evening approached, Pa stood to make a toast. The crowd quieted, glasses raised. When Wade Callahan first appeared at our gate, I saw a dangerous man running from darkness. What I didn't see was the good man fighting to get free. Pa's voice carried strong despite his emotion. Today, My daughter married not the gunman, but the man who chose to be more. To Wade and Eliza, may your shadows always be behind you and your faces toward the sun." The toast was drunk with enthusiasm. Wade stood next, uncomfortable with attention, but determined. "I'm not good with speeches," he began. "Words were never my strong suit, but I need to say this." He looked around at the assembled faces, people who'd accepted him despite his past. "I came here looking for water and found a home, found family, found myself again. Thank you for seeing what I could be instead of what I was." More cheers, more toasts. As night fell, Chinese lanterns were lit, casting magical light over the celebration. Sarah caught the bouquet with suspicious accuracy, blushing furiously when Matthew Henderson winked at her. Finally, as the moon rose high, Wade and Eliza made their escape in a flower-decorated wagon. They'd spend their wedding night at the old Carter homestead before beginning the journey to Montana in the morning. Pa and Sarah would follow after harvest, giving the newlyweds time to establish their new home. The house was quiet, lamplight soft through the windows. Wade carried Eliza over the threshold, both laughing at the tradition. "Welcome home, Mrs. Callahan." "I've been home since the day you stayed," she said softly. Later, as they lay entwined in the marriage bed, Eliza traced the scars on Wade's chest with gentle fingers. "Do they still hurt?" "No, haven't for a while now." He caught her hand, kissing her palm. "You healed more than you know." We healed each other. They made love with windows open to the spring breeze. Years of waiting dissolved in tenderness and passion. When dawn painted the sky pink, they were still awake, planning their future in whispered conversations. "Cattle ranching," Wade mused. "Never thought I'd be a rancher. You were always meant for honest work. Just took a while to find it. Think we'll make it Montana's hard country." "We've survived worse than winter and cattle." She propped up on an elbow, hair cascading over bare shoulders. "Besides, I'll be with you. How hard can it be?" Wade laughed, pulling her back down. "Famous last words, woman." A month later, they stood on their Montana land as the stage pulled away. 40 acres of grassland stretched before them, mountains purple in the distance. A small cabin waited, rough but solid, and their starter herd grazed peacefully nearby. "It's perfect," Eliza breathed. "It's work," Wade corrected, but he was smiling. "Hard work for uncertain reward. Sounds familiar, like courting me." That worked out well enough. They spent that summer building, expanding the cabin, learning their land, making mistakes and discoveries in equal measure. Wade took to ranching like he'd been born to it, his careful patience perfect for handling cattle. Eliza managed the household and helped with the stock, proving she could rope as well as any hand. Letters from home came regularly. Pa's health improved. Sarah was being courted properly by Matthew Henderson. The farm prospered. Tom Morrison had become a church deacon. Of all things, his wild days behind him. One evening, as autumn touched the Montana mountains with gold, Eliza found Wade sitting on the porch, her father's old Colt in his hands. "Thinking of selling it," he said without preamble. "Don't need it anymore. It's part of your history. A part I'm ready to let go." He set the gun aside, pulling her onto his lap. "I'd rather hold you than iron." "Good choice." She nestled into his arms. "Though maybe keep it, to remember how far you've come." "Don't need a gun to remember that. Every morning I wake beside you tells me how far I've traveled." They sat watching the sunset paint their land in shades of amber and rose. Smoke rose from neighboring homesteads. They weren't alone out here. Community was building. Civilization following the railroads west. "Any regrets?" Eliza asked, echoing his wedding day question. "Just one." Her heart stuttered. "What?" "That I didn't steal more of Crane's money? Could use it for a bigger barn." She swatted him, laughing. "Impossible man. You're impossible man." Always. Winter came early to Montana, but they were ready. The cabin was snug. Supplies laid in, cattle sheltered. When the first snows fell, they watched from their window, wrapped in quilts and each other.
Remember that blizzard?
Eliza asked.
When you stayed in the house for the first time, I remember wanting to hold you so bad it hurt.
And now I can hold you whenever I want. He demonstrated, pulling her closer. Worth the wait. Spring brought new life calves in the field and a secret Eliza had been holding close. She told Wade on a morning when wildflowers bloomed across their pasture, the same flowers she'd worn in her wedding crown.
A baby.
His face went through wonder, joy, and terror in quick succession. You're sure? Very sure. Due in autumn, near as I can figure. Wade placed a trembling hand on her still flat stomach.
A baby. Our baby.
Scared. Terrified. What if I can't?
You'll be a wonderful father.
She covered his hand with hers.
You know what not to do. That's more than most men start with. A baby,
he repeated, then laughed, free and amazed. We're having a baby. He swung her around until she squealed, then set her down carefully like spun glass.
Sorry, should you be resting?
Do you need anything?
Just you, always you.
They wrote to Pa and Sarah immediately. The return letter brought news of Sarah's engagement and Pa's determination to visit before winter. Want to meet my grandchild proper, he wrote. As Eliza's pregnancy progressed, Wade became almost comically protective. She found it endearing, if occasionally exasperating. I can still milk cows, she said one morning, finding he'd already done her chores. Doctor said no heavy lifting. A milk pail isn't heavy.
It is when full.
She sighed, but kissed him anyway.
What would I do without you?
Never have to find out. Their daughter was born as the first snows fell, with the local midwife attending and Wade pacing outside like a caged wolf. When the baby's cries finally came, he burst through the door, all protocol forgotten. Are they?
Mother and daughter are perfect,
the midwife assured him.
Come meet your little girl.
Wade approached the bed where Eliza lay exhausted but radiant, a tiny bundle in her arms. Want to hold her? He took the baby with hands that had once dealt death, now infinitely gentle with new life. The tiny girl opened her eyes, gray like her father's, and Wade's composure shattered.
She's beautiful,
he whispered through tears.
Perfect,
like her mother. What should we name her? Wade touched the baby's downy hair reverently. Hope, for what she represents. Hope Callahan. Eliza smiled.
I love it.
They were still marveling over their daughter when hoofbeats announced visitors. Pa and Sarah had made the journey after all, arriving just in time. Let me see my granddaughter, Pa demanded, snow still on his shoulders. The reunion was joyful, full of tears and laughter. Sarah, now Mrs. Henderson, glowed with her own pregnancy. The tiny cabin overflowed with family. That night, as relatives slept wherever they could find space, Wade stood by the window holding Hope, showing her the stars. Your daddy was lost once, he whispered to the sleeping infant. Hurt people, did wrong, but your mama saw good in me anyway. Gave me a chance to be better. He kissed the baby's forehead. I promise you'll never know that darkness. Only love. Only light. Eliza woke to find them there, her husband holding their daughter, speaking promises to the night. She rose and joined them, the three of them framed by frosted glass. No more running, she said softly. No more running. Wade agreed. I'm home. Outside, snow fell on their Montana land, blanketing everything clean and new. Inside, a family born of unlikely love faced the future together. No shadows, only light. Thank you all for listening to this Wild West love story. I'd love to know where you're enjoying this tale from. Please share your thoughts and location in the comments below so we can connect and discuss this story together. If you enjoyed this journey of redemption and love, please subscribe to Wild West Stories 1850 like this video, and hit the hype button to help more listeners discover these stories of the American frontier. Your support means the world and helps keep these tales alive for everyone who loves the romance and adventure of the Old West.